Well, as moms, we have a lot of sayings that we like to employ to help make sure our kids remember how they are going to behave. Some of these phrases I'm sure you're familiar with, such as a place for everything and everything in its place. Or if all your friends were to jump off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge too? Or no one said life is fair. And perhaps the most famous, I'm convinced, used since time immemorial, when a kid wants to know why they should do something, because I told you so. Exactly, because I told you so. Well, one of those phrases that my sister and I grew up with, that my mom was fond of saying, was, if it's not nice nor necessary, don't say it. And in a house with two girls who had the gift of gab, this was a very helpful mantra for us to remember of how we were to behave. Because we always had some parameters to evaluate what words should come out of our mouth and what we should just keep quietly in our head. And this was super helpful, whether it was in discussion with friends, in disagreements with my sister, or even in talking to adults, to think, well, if it's not nice and if it's not necessary, then I don't need to say it. And it may seem like we've outgrown the need for these sayings. We are now all adults, and we might think, well, I don't need to have these little tidbits of things to monitor my behavior. But I'm here to tell you that these types of sayings can still be helpful for evaluating our actions, our thoughts, our motives, and even our words. And there may be no place that we need these kind of helpful parameters more than social media. Because see, social media can be both good or it can be bad. Some people think social media is great. It's a place where they go get new recipes, or they find ideas for decorating for their kids' birthday parties, or where they don't have to go to their high school reunion because they've caught up with all of their high school friends already on social media. There's a lot of good things that can come from social media. But as I'm sure you're all aware, there are a lot of negative things that are associated with use of social media too. For example, extended use of social media is connected with heightened mental anxiety. There's even studies that say that extended social media use can be linked to depression, addictive behavior, and even physical ailments. But ultimately, what we have to recognize is that social media is about communication. And with any form of communication, we can use that tool for positive impact or for negative impact. And so we want to see today, well, what can we do? What are some parameters that we can put in place that will help us leverage social media in order to maximize its good benefits and minimize any negative consequences? Now, when we're going to do this, one of the first things that we need to do is we need to assess our reason behind what we share. We have to think, what is our motivation for posting what we post? Specifically, we need to, point one, post with pure motives. We need to post with pure motives. You might be thinking, Natalie, that sounds really good. I want to have pure motives when I post. But what are some practical ways that I can do that? I'm so glad you asked. One of the first ways that we can ensure that we're posting with pure motives is that we focus on the things that are true, and we avoid anything that is untrue. This may be rumors that we do not know the accuracy of. It may even be gossip, where we think we know part of the story, and so we think it's true, but we really don't know the whole story, and we're sharing something that somebody else would not appreciate us doing. We need to make sure that everything that we share, if we're going to post with pure motives, gives grace to those who read it. Another way that we can avoid anything that is untrue in our post is by avoiding humble brags. Whether this is about our kids and how wonderful they are, or this is about our great accomplishments, one of the ways that we tend to not post with pure motives is we don't share the whole story. We only post the things that paint ourselves or our families in the best light. Now, I'm not saying that you should begin to air all of your family's dirty laundry on social media in order to make sure you post what is true and that you post with pure motives. But it is a helpful parameter for us to think, okay, well, if I can't share the whole story, should I be sharing it at all? If I have to twist reality in order to feel comfortable posting it, then maybe I should just withhold from posting that picture or sharing that story or doing anything with that tidbit that would not accurately reflect the true state of things. We also need to make sure that when we engage with social media and we post with pure motives, that we resist the urge to compare someone else's best performance with our behind the scenes. You know, we put our best face forward when it comes to what we share on social media. And we recognize that when people do that, they're trying to paint a reality that may not actually be what truly is happening in their lives. And so we need to check our motives and make sure that we're not trying to one-up each other by saying, well, if their kid did this, I'm going to share what my kid did this. Even there's the whole rest of the story that I'm not going to share because I want to make sure what I share and what I display represents and gives a over-exaggerated positive impression of what is going on. We also need to make sure that as we're posting with pure motives, that we resist posting anything that brings shame. We want to make sure that we feel that when we post, that we're not saying things that would bring shame to other people. This could be complaints about your husband or your kids. I get it. Sometimes things are hard. And I'm not saying we can't share the hard things, but we shouldn't be sharing the hard things in a way that would paint our husband or our children in a way that does not accurately reflect the situation. We shouldn't share in such a way that if our husband or our kids saw it, they would be embarrassed that we had told that story. We also need to make sure that we resist bringing shame even to people that we may not know. That may be servers or establishments with which we do business. The thing is, every time we post about someone else or we post about another organization, there are people that are represented by that story. And those people have feelings, those people have value, and we need to make sure that just because they're strangers to us, we're not using our very public platforms to trash them. We also need to make sure that we avoid what I call silly disputes. I'm a marketing professor, and I have research that I want to do someday. I've never done it, which is I don't believe that anyone's opinion has ever effectively been changed by social media. I don't know about you, but when I see two people going at it on social media, I don't think, ooh, you've totally persuaded me of your perspective. I just don't think it happens. And you know what? Oftentimes those silly disputes, because they're trying to win points rather than to maintain the relationship, they are posting in ways that do not reflect pure motives. They're posting in ways that do not reflect an interest in the other person's good. So we need to make sure that we resist that temptation, that we say, I'm not going to post, I'm not going to engage in these discussions where I'm trying to win the argument, even though I may lose the relationship. We also need to make sure as we post with pure motives that we stay away from any type of impurity. One of the ways that we tend to do that as women is we tend to post just to get the likes, just to get the little shares or the hearts or the little thumbs up. Because let's be honest, it feels good to have that affirmation. Research tells us that every time someone engages with a social media post that we've shared, we get a little hit of dopamine in our brain. There's a chemical reaction from that engagement with what we share. And sometimes we can get addicted. We might not think it, but we get addicted to having that little, oh, good job, I hearted your picture. And that's understandable, but when we post just for the sake of getting those likes, we are not posting with good motives. We should post because we love what is good and because we want to share it. and our posts should not be marred by any other lesser intention. We don't want to post to win an argument. We don't want to post to exalt ourselves. We want to make sure that when we hit that share button, that we can say, I am posting with pure motives, that I'm posting because I care about the good that I see in my life and because I want to bring good to other people. Another way that we can ensure that we make the most out of our use of social media is we can proactively think, well, how can I bring good to other people's lives? Or we can, as I put it in point 2, make sure that we commit to blessing others. We need to commit to blessing others. We don't want to just think, okay, what should I avoid posting? But we want to be proactive and we want to think, what should I be posting? And we should be posting those things that bring good, that bless other people. You may remember that during the early part of the pandemic, John Krasinski, the actor from The Office, started what he called the Some Good News channel. Because what John Krasinski realized is that in the middle of the pandemic, we were hearing a lot of bad news. It seemed like every day we were encountering reports of the number of cases and the difficulties that people were having from the isolation and from the other measures that were put into place. And he said, you know what? People need good news. So he started his Some Good News channel. And on that Some Good News channels, he shared positive stories, things like interviewing a cancer survivor, celebrating healthcare workers, and even hosting a virtual prom for high school seniors who did not get to hold their prom because of the pandemic. What John Krasinski recognized is something that we should all recognize. People need positive inputs in their lives. People need to be blessed, and social media is a great place to do this. We can benefit others by focusing on what is good and committing to use our social media to share just that. Now, as you think about, well, what are some of the good things that I should share? How could I bless others with my posts? Well, one of the ways that we can use social media to bless others is by sharing those things that are worthy of praise. Specifically, sharing those things that are worthy of praise in other people's lives. This may be celebrating birthdays or anniversaries or birth announcements. Those are all great things. And we should be using our social media to acknowledge what a good gift it is that someone has gone around the sun another year, or someone has been married for another year, or someone has welcomed a precious life into their home. And when we use social media to extol those things that are worthy of praise, we are blessing others with our use of it. We may also use social media to share the joys and successes of other people. We may use it to celebrate the good behavior of our kids or achievements that they have made. We also may use it to celebrate the achievements and milestones of other people in our life. If you have a friend that you know has been training daily in order to run a marathon, and they actually accomplish that, we can use social media in order to celebrate that joy. That is something worthy of praise. They have worked hard and they have accomplished something. And we should be participating in that celebration. We can also use social media to share what is commendable, to make sure that we're blessing others by sharing those things that are worthy of commendation. This may be acknowledging the service that other people give. Maybe this is a positive interaction with a teacher. I don't know about you, but I know my kids' teachers have had a very hard last 2 years. And yet my kids' teachers have showed up every day, eager to engage the students in learning and in making the best of a difficult situation. And how wonderful it would be if one of those educators stumbled across a post from a thankful parent just commending them for operating and continuing to take each day as it comes, committed to educating the kids in their classroom. It may be that you want to celebrate the service of our first responders. My kids and I have a tradition that every time we hear a siren when we're in the car, we stop and pray, both for the people that the siren is going to help and for the people who are providing that help. What amazing thing it would be if every time we were at home, don't do this in the car, and you heard a siren, that you posted something about thanking those first responders for the service that they give, for the way that they continue to support the community, again, in very difficult circumstances. You also could use social media to bless others by sharing those things that others have done in service to you. I have a friend, my friend who is a Pinterest wizard. She is that person that when she puts together a birthday party for her kids, everything matches, everything looks good, there's a theme, and everything works with the theme, even the food, and I don't know how she does it. Well, a few years ago, my best friend needed someone to throw a birthday party for her 9-year-old daughter. I am not a Pinterest queen. So what did I do? I called my friend who is, and I said, hey, can you help me put together this birthday party? And she made decorations. She helped me figure out how to make it all work together. She helped me figure out what to serve and how I can make it a fun experience for 9-year-old girls. I don't remember what it's like to be a 9-year-old girl, but she helped me figure that all out because she used her gifts and talents in service to me. And when someone does that, that is something that we should commend. Not only saying thank you to them personally, but publicly recognizing the service that they have taken in order to bless somebody else. We can also commend others and share what is commendable by recognizing the sacrifices that other people have made. I'm sure that there have been times in your life where you have seen someone who is willing to give up time or give up money or give up their talents in order to bless someone else. And when we see that, we can help change all the negative things about social media and make it be used for good when we publicly acknowledge that sacrifice. My dad used to say that when it came to working with employees, when you're the boss and you have employees, you want to correct in private and praise in public. And social media is very public. And we can use it to praise those things that are worthy of commendation. Another way that we can commit to bless others with social media is by sharing what is lovely. Literally those things that display love. We may use social media to encourage someone else in their difficulties. When someone else posts about the difficult time that they're having, their kid that is sick, or their struggles that they're having at work, we can respond in a way that uplifts them, that brings love to a difficult situation. We can even extend that love further by responding in ways that provide practical help. When we see that someone's struggling, we can offer to go get them groceries. When they have a sick kid at home, we can drop off a meal for the kid and for them. When their husband is out of town for an extended period of time, we can invite them over to a meal. Because you know what's really hard is when you've been with the kids all day and then your spouse doesn't come home at the end of the day to provide that fun and lively interaction. And you're doing that all day, all by yourself. And so inviting that friend over for a meal shows them love, and you can use social media to make those connections. You might even offer to take their kids for a few hours in order to give them a break so that they can reset. And that is a wonderful way to use social media to recognize that someone is going through a difficult time. And it can motivate us to reach out and to offer practical assistance to show them love. One of the sayings that kids often use on the playground is, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." However, we can all speak from personal experience that words definitely can hurt. The damage of our words can be unseen and untold, and yet it can last for an extended period of time. So when it comes to the words and the things that we share on social media, we not only want to make sure that we commit to blessing them, we not only want to make sure that we resist causing harm, but we also want to be thoughtful about the long-term impact that we are leaving. Or we want to, as I put it in point 3, leave an impression worth imitating. Leave an impression worth imitating. Every time we hit post, every time we hit share, we are making an impression. One of the ways that we're making an impression is that we are modeling behavior for our kids. And I realize that when the kids are the age of your kids, it's easy to forget this. Because when my daughter and my son were babies, I wasn't thinking, okay, how am I using social media to model behavior that I want them to emulate? But I was reminded recently in a very poignant way that all of our behavior is modeling something for our children. See, about a year ago, I got a new phone, and I'm not cool, so I just kept the same picture that came on the phone as my lock screen. Well, my niece, who's in high school, thought, Aunt Natalie, that's lame. You need a new picture. And so she did. So she was very kind about it, but that's what she thought. So she came and she said, Aunt Natalie, I'm going to find you a new picture to put on your home screen. Okay, go for it. I handed her my phone. What I didn't know, because we were over at my house celebrating a special occasion and I was busy in the kitchen, was that her way of finding this picture was to go on my social media and to scroll through all of my posts. Not only that, but my daughter came up behind her and started reading all of my posts back until the time my daughter was born. They got all the way back to seeing the picture of us dedicating my daughter at church. And my daughter read every single one of those posts. And I was so glad. I did not see her do this. I didn't realize it until after the fact. But I was so glad that I didn't have to worry about what did she see. Because I knew that in my post, there was nothing that either brought her shame, that degraded my husband, or that in any other way did not reflect the behavior that one day, when she's 30 and she gets social media, that I want her to use it. So we need to make sure that we are modeling behavior for our kids. Now you might be thinking, okay, Natalie, you're silly. You didn't delete all those things. I can go delete them. But here's the thing. Everything that comes out of our mouth and everything that comes out of our typing fingers is a reflection of what is going on in our heart. So even if your kids never see your social media post, and you are engaging in social media, you are communicating in that channel in a way that is angry, in a way that is hurtful, in a way that is complaining, in a way that is discontent, all of that is going to infiltrate into every other aspect of your life. So we need to make sure that we're modeling that behavior, not just because they may one day read it, but because we know that it's going to influence how we interact with them. It's going to influence how we respond to our husbands. It's going to influence how we respond to the person at the grocery store who cuts in front of us. Because it's all centered on what's going on in our hearts. When we engage in social media, we are displaying our character or our lack of character. And we need to make sure that we are leaving an impression. We are modeling the type of character that we hope our kids one day have. But it's not only our kids that we're leaving an impression for. Everyone who sees our post, we are leaving an example for them to follow. I know we think social media is a very private form of communication. We think, oh, but I've limited my friends. I have my filters on. I know who sees what. It's all very exclusive. I'm here to tell you it's not. Because when your friend likes something or comments on something and then someone else sees it, you are leaving an impression for that person that you don't even know of the type of character that you have. And you're leaving an impression of the type of ways that social media should be used. You're either going to leave an impression that says, hey, we want to use these communication channels for good, or you're going to leave an impression that, hey, we want to use these communication channels for ill. And our goal is to make sure that as we use social media, we are modeling that type of behavior. We are showcasing that behavior that leaves an impression that we would want others to follow. We are modeling the ways that we would hope other people would use social media. There's an old saying in construction, measure twice, cut once. Because once you take that piece of wood and you make your cut, you've kind of made a commitment. There's no going back, right? The cut is made. When it comes to our use of social media, it may be helpful for us to adopt the motto, think twice, post once. Because I'm here to tell you, I've never met anyone who regretted what they didn't post on social media. I've never met anyone who said, oh, if only I had shared that really cute picture of my kid yesterday, my life would be so much better. Or, oh, if only I had really engaged in that argument, I'm sure I could have won them to my side. But I've met plenty of people who regretted what they did post. So we need to take a step back and think about it. There have been times where I have drafted posts and I thought, Natalie, do you really have the right motives for sharing this? Is this really about bringing grace to somebody else? Or is this really about getting likes for yourself? Is this really about encouraging your kids? Or is this really trying to get other people to come alongside you and laugh at the frustration you have with your kids? And I need to take a step back and I need to say, what is the reason that I'm sharing this? And if I don't know the reason and I can't say that it is with good motives, it's not going to hurt me to wait a day to share it. And so I need to think twice and post once. Because even though you may delete that post when you've thought better of it, someone has seen it. Someone has an impression by that post that you've made. And so once you've hit share, once you've hit post, that impression is formed. So we need to take a step back. We need to think about it. Make sure that we have pure motives, that we're blessing others, and we're leaving an impression worth imitating before we commit to making that post. As I mentioned earlier, I teach marketing, and one of the ways that we evaluate media in marketing is we have 3 criteria that we use. And this is any media, social media, television, radio channel, billboards. We use 3 criteria to evaluate media. We evaluate media by their audience, by their impact, and by how much it costs. And one of the funny things that I often encounter is when students are budgeting for how they're going to use social media in their marketing plans, is they say, oh, there's no cost involved in using social media. And I say to them, well, if you're a social media coordinator, I hope you're wrong, because that means you have no salary. And what I try to get them to see is there is always a cost. And there is always a cost to us when we use social media as well. Because when we engage in social media, there's a cost in the time that we've committed, whether it's a good use of time or it's a terrible one. When we use social media, it can enhance our character or it can diminish it. Our use of social media can build relationships or it can destroy them. We want to make sure that as we use social media, that we take the good, we maximize it, and we work to ensure that our communication lifts up rather than destroys. We should remember that our audience can literally be anyone. So let's make sure when people measure our impact, that it is one that enhances and promotes that which is good in this life, the blessings that God has given us. Thank you. Have a great group discussion.